In this video, we're going to discuss how molecules are formed through what are called covalent bonds. First of all, what is a molecule? A molecule is a group of two or more atoms held together by attracted forces known as chemical bonds. So we can take a look at this picture here of a swimmer in water. The water is H2O, that's two hydrogen atoms and an oxygen atom, and they're all bonded together to form this one molecule, H2O. The swimmer is breathing air. What's in air? Well, it has nitrogen, that's N2, so it's two nitrogen atoms bonded together. It also has oxygen, so it's O2, two oxygen atoms bonded together. And of course, we're also breathing in water vapor, that's H2O. Now, chemical bonds link atoms to form molecules. And to understand this concept, we have to understand that molecules can be more or less stable. So an atom will be most stable when its outermost electron shell is filled. Let's take a look at this picture here of a hydrogen atom. It has a single proton in its nucleus, and it has a single electron in its shell. Now, this is actually not stable because this outer shell can actually potentially hold up to two electrons. So for this reason, hydrogen is almost never found as a single atom. So an atom whose outermost shell is not filled will interact with one or more other atoms to fill its outermost shell by sharing electrons. We need to bring in some terminology here. A valence electron is an electron in the outer shell of an atom that can participate in the formation of a chemical bond, given that the outer shell is not yet filled. Let's take a look at an example here. So we have two hydrogen atoms. They can actually combine to form H2, which would be H2, which is hydrogen gas. When they do this, covalent bonds involve sharing electrons between these two atoms. So it's a chemical bond in which two atoms share one or more electrons. The prefix co means jointly associated in action or partnered. Thus, the term covalent bond means the atoms share valence electrons. Recall that I just mentioned a second ago that a valence electron is an electron in the outer shell of an atom that is able to participate in a chemical bond. A single covalent bond is depicted as a single line. Let's take a look at this. So if we go over here and look at our hydrogen atoms, once they combine, they form a single molecule now, H2. And you can see what they're doing here is that they're sharing a pair of electrons. Now, when they do this, this means that each hydrogen atom essentially has a filled outer shell. It has two electrons in its outer shell, and therefore it's more stable than it would have been if it was just a single hydrogen atom all by itself. And you can see the structural formula with a covalent bond. Again, that's depicted with a single dash or line between the two H's. Let's take a look at oxygen. So oxygen has 8 protons and 8 neutrons and 8 electrons. So I have here a picture of two oxygen atoms right next to each other. Now they're going to be able to form covalent bonds and form O2, which is oxygen gas. With oxygen, we're going to find that two pairs of electrons are shared, and this covalent bond is called a double bond. And in the structural formula, a double bond, covalent bond, is depicted as two parallel lines. Now let's try and understand why a double bond is necessary here. Well, if we look at the individual oxygen atoms, you can see that the first shell holds 2 electrons. Well, that's good, that's stable. But then if you go to the outermost shell, which is the next shell, you'll see that there's 6 electrons in that outermost shell. Well, it turns out that an atom will be more stable if it has 8 electrons in that second shell. So in order to do that, an oxygen atom needs to share 2 pairs of electrons with another oxygen atom. So if you look now to the picture with the oxygen molecule O2, if you look to that outer shell and you count, you can see there's actually 8 electrons in the outer shell for each oxygen atom. And therefore, the oxygen atom is more stable. So O2 is more stable than O by itself and another O by itself. Okay, so that's pretty much the covalent bond. It's a shared bond. It's a bond in which electrons are shared between two atoms or more, two or more atoms, and it tends to be a very strong bond. We'll stop there and we'll move on to other types of bond in the next video.